All right, so the first thing I would like for you to do is on the class notes on the week 9. I think I have the weeks labeled wrongly. I'm supposed to fix it, but I'm not going to fix it because I don't want to confuse people, right? So session 2, class plan and content, pivot tables. There's a file here. I want you to go ahead and click to download that file. I'm going to show you how to download the file. If you click on it, it pops up inside here. Our G Suite admin does not allow for us to download it directly. So the workaround is you're going to click the three ellipses over here, the three dots, choose open in a new window, and then the download button is available to us, so you can go ahead and click on download. All right, and the idea is we want to manipulate this using Microsoft Excel because that's what we're using so far, right? So I opened it by the time. I'm just gonna wait for audio response from everybody. Just let me know if you got through with opening it. Tell me yes, so I know I can move forward.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Yes, sir.
Very good. So that's enough feedback for me. I'm going to move forward now. You're going to notice that there's a spreadsheet in front of you. I want you to look at my screen instead of looking at your screen for now. There's a spreadsheet in front of you, right? The sheet is actually already sorted, right? I'm just going to explore the sorting quickly, all right? So I'm going to select the entire data. You don't need to do this. I am doing this. I select the entire data, including columns, except the ID itself, and choose sort and filter. Choose custom sort, and I'm gonna see how this thing kind of sorted for me here, right? It is first sorted by county, then sub-sorted by job title, and then sub-sorted by those who are currently employed. All right, so this is the different levels of sorting that we have here. That's what it's sorted like, and if I look at this sheet right now, I would see it's sorted by county. So alphabetical order currently comes first, my arrow, then the river. Then it's sub-sorted by job title. So you can see over here, for everyone in currently, you're going to see then it have D for doctor, then firefighter, then lawyer, going down so far. Let me try Myro. Myro might be a better one to look at. It's sub-sorted. It's sub-sorted. If you look over here, by, so you see doctor, firefighter, lawyer, then police, and then teacher. So we know it's sub-sorted by job title, and then that is further sub-sorted. You're going to notice that how under the police grouping, all right, that too is sorted in alphabetical order where N comes first, right? So that's how the sorting actually working for this. You don't have to learn that stuff off. It's just how it's something good to know right now, because this is how we're going to approach inserting the pivot table. So now you're going to perform this skill for me. First task, I wanted to select everything except the ID column. So I select them from first name all the way down to 172.17. So that's your first task. I'm going to pause for a little bit. When all you finish selecting that, just give me some audio confirmations. If I get enough audio confirmations, I'll go forward.
Yes, sir.
Yes, that's one. All right, a few people. Well, 2 people so far. Let me just get the next one. Maybe only 2 people microphone working. I guess I can go forward. Feel free to stop me, because sometimes it's be hard to pay attention to the chats also. You know, it's be a little bit difficult to do that. Anyway, so let me just come back to my screen over here. So I have that selected. I'm going to click on, let me show it here. I'm going to click on insert, and then I'm going to choose recommended pivot tables. So I already click on insert recommended pivot tables. Point to note, the table has already been selected. So I'm going to click on recommended pivot tables. And you don't necessarily need to follow on here, but if you want to follow to a T, I'm going to choose the third one, where you would see sum of living expenses. Let me just make sure I magnify that. I'm choosing the third one, which is sum of living expenses. If you don't get this option, it's okay. It might be different on your end. You can choose any one. So I just select that and then choose OK. What Excel will do is you'll see how it insert a pivot table on a new sheet. So let me just drag this in a little bit closer here. So I should probably make this window a little bit smaller, like that. Yeah, drag this guy back out. So drag the stuff out. So like that. Make it a little bit smaller. So when I magnify, you know, we don't run into any problems, right? So Excel produces a pivot table for us. If I magnify, I'm gonna see that how we have some row labels here. So you're seeing we had column labels before, right? One of them was job title, but we're not literally seeing that word. You're going to see doctor, firefighter, landscaper, lawyer, police, and teacher, all right? And what's important to note about that, that is actual data that repeats in our table. If I look at my table again, so if I go back to the operational data, and, you know, I inspect this table, I would see that how, okay, what's one of my groupings over here? It's sorted by county, all right? And this data, any repeating data, this tend to be grouped and used either as a row or column label. So I'm going to look at this right now in my pivot table, this new information here. When I say new information, I mean the new information I just now see. The actual data is used as column or row tables. Sorry, column names or rows, row fields, if it is. I kind of real mess that one up there, right? So what I want to do right now is, let me see if I can bring this in a little closer. I'm in a bit of a zoom mode right now. What I really want to do right now, I want to make this pivot table blank. And so this is what you're going to do on your end. I just unchecking everything. So everything that I find under the fields over here, I just uncheck it until I get a blank pivot table. So go ahead and do that on your end. Just give me some audio responses now. Can you see my screen properly?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right. As we worry that the writing too small. So I'm going to work with this space that I have here, right? So I just want to reinforce that point. So one of the items that we knew that was grouped before was definitely county. So to add county to the list, you could go ahead and click it, or you could drag it. So I want you to go ahead and drag county under the row section. And we're going to see that we just get a one column table with data that is grouped. All right. So we're exploring that sort of group data scenario. Let me know when you finish doing that. Just give me some audio responses.
Yes, sir.
All right. Next point to note, just drag that across in columns and let me see what happens. If I drag it across in columns, I'm going to notice that I get a column for each group. Remember, we have multiple items for St. Patrick, multiple items for Caroni, multiple items for Mayaro. All right. So that's just for demonstration purposes. I'm going to drag this back. I'm going to drag back county over here. And I don't really want you to have an intimate understanding of the data, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some values to it, right? So I'm looking around at any column that looks like it have a sort of like a number, and I see that how I have living expenses. So I'm just going to drag living expenses under values. And if I look at this data right now, I have rows grouped by county, and the values is sum of living expenses. Now we could go ahead and change this, but right now we're discovering we're discovering trends among our data here, right? So right now, at least the trends that I could see is that how the largest number is what, 25,229. This is money. I guess I could have formatted it as money, but right now I'm discovering trends in my data, and I'm gonna see that how I have items in my table that was blank. I didn't have data for I didn't collect data for the county for these people over here, right? So let me make some more sense of this, right? This is a grouping. Another item that we knew that was grouped from before would be I think it's jobs, right? Job title. So I want you to go ahead and drag job title underneath county. And what we're going to see is that our list now becomes, our table now becomes sorted by, each row is sorted by row, and then sub-sorted by jobs, job title. So just go ahead and do that and verify that you're seeing these things. Just give me some audio responses and I'll finish with that.
Finish, sir.
All right.
Yes, sir.
Good. So now I can actually look at this stuff and I'm trying to make some sense of it, right? So far I've seen in Caroni, doctors' expenses are 12,726. It seems to be the largest. Let me look at doctors in Nariva, 4,816. Wow, I've seen, like, you know, the data all over the place, right? So this is the point where abandoning having an intimate knowledge of the data, because when you're using a pivot table, you're going to be using it in a situation where you don't have an intimate knowledge of the data. As I said, we sort of cheating because we know the structure of the data a little bit by sorting it. All right. So what I'm gonna do now, I'm just gonna drag fields at random and see what can happen. So I'm gonna look up here, and obviously I'm thinking about grouping. I see number. So when I see things like number of dependents, I know that can be calculated sums and fields and things like that. But a good one to look at is currently employed. So let me go ahead and add that underneath. Add that to a filter. All right. So if I add currently employed to the filter section, I'm gonna see now that I get a filter up here, and I can go ahead and select those who are employed or those who are unemployed. As a politician, it might be interesting for me to note those who are unemployed. So I'm gonna go ahead and click on no, and I will see that my table now becomes filtered once more. So I'm gonna see some more detailed data. I might care about unemployed people, and I might look at, okay, look, doctors have an expense of 8,000 currently. They still have a low expense in Arriva. The expense is not so high. Let me see, are there any teachers inside there? So this is me just kind of looking at the data, trying to figure out trends, right? What I could do now, I'm clicking back on my pivot table. I'm gonna move currently employed to columns, and like you know from before, it's going to be grouped. This time I might have to make this screen a little bit bigger for you to see what's going on here. And I'm gonna see for each one of them, I get a stratification across yes and no. And right now I'm starting to see a trend in my data. If I look for currently, I'm gonna notice that, well, wait now. It seems that a lot of people not employed, and they have a lot of expenses to take on over here. So this is something I could definitely look at and try to make sense of. As I say, we're taking a sort of an ad hoc, a casual approach to this thing over here, right? We already know how to group this stuff, right? So let me see if I can make something a little bit more reasonable to all you fellas. Now this part is not specifically on our syllabus, but I think it's valuable. All right, because it's not specifically on our syllabus, I'm not going to ask you to perform the skill right now. I will demonstrate the skill so you can get a vibe of how things work in here, right? So I still have that scenario over there, right? What I want to do, I want to drag county up to my filter section. All right, so I drag county up to my filter section. So now I can filter among the different counties, right? So I can filter across. Let's say, for example, if I could click on my arrow and see the data for my arrow. All right, what I'm gonna do is select this stuff here, go on insert. You don't need to do this, sir. I'm not asking you to do it. And I'm gonna insert a pie chart, a 3D pie chart, right? And right now, just select it for no. For this example, let me just undo that. I'm gonna take off currently employed. I just drag it back to the open area in the pivot chart fields. So I've taken off currently employed, and I'm just looking at this living expenses here, and you're gonna notice that how if I change the filtering, my pie chart is going to update for me. And what's interesting to note, for Jamaican elections, they used Excel to show the graphics on the screen like this. So that's one way I think it become useful to you to see those sorts of trends. If you use our chart, you're gonna get some relevant data to make sense of it. I'm gonna delete this chart now. And that is one of the reasons, I explained to you, that is one of the reasons why we want to have these things here. I'm going to go back and drag county down here. So this is the part I want for you to follow for me, right? So I'm going to minimize this. So on your end, I want for you to set up the situation where county now is under job title. It's not over job title, it's in rows, but it is under. And you're going to notice something different about your data now. The difference that you should note is that your data is now hierarchically grouped by job title first. Previously, we would have had county on top, so I'm dragging county on top to show you how the grouping has changed. But if I want the one that's at the top of the list, job title, I could group by the job title now and probably see the breakdown for all the doctors across the various counties, what their expenses are. Just verify that you can reach to this point for me. Give my audio response when you reach to this point.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Yes, sir.
All right, good. So let me just try something else, right? I'm gonna try to drag county to columns. And I'm going to observe what my table going to look like. I'm going to see that again a breakdown now. Like let's say, for example, if I chose for landscaper in the river, I can see sort of a map. So in this case, I'm not really considering it to be a table. I'm considering it to be a sort of a map for me to figure out, you know, discrete value points. Like, let me just add a next discrete value point over here to show you. So like you'll see there's a field called number of dependents. I'm going to drag that underneath values. And my table becomes a little bit more meaningful for me right now. It looks a little bit confusing, but let me just choose this arbitrary rule, lawyer. All right. So I'm gonna see what I can make sense of here. The amount of lawyers, the living expenses for lawyers in Caroni, as I've seen over here, is $1,095, and the amount of dependents that they have is 9. What does this tell me? The people who dependent on them, they don't have to spend a lot of money on them. Could it be that how most lawyers have children who already have jobs and they don't have to spend much money on dependents? That kind of stuff. Let me go ahead and drag back county on the over job title. And I get this sort of breakdown here. Verify that you can do that also. I'll just wait a little bit.
Yes, sir.
All right, good. Last but not least, I just want to do another extreme scenario. Let me just try. Like I'm trying to do crazy things right now. So let me try putting number of dependents at actual value, number of dependents as a column. All right. And I still have the living expenses there. So as I realize that this table is really about living expenses to me. So now that I have the number of dependents under columns, and it is very difficult to get discrete values, right? I would see that how in Caroni, there are some people with a number of dependents, 5. So doctors in Caroni have 5 dependents, and firefighters in Caroni have 5 dependents here. So I'm going to see a stratification about the number of dependents as I go along. As a politician, I might be interested in this column to find out, hey, wait now, for people who have plenty dependents, what are my expenses looking like? Wow, it seems that lawyers are really lucky because even though they have 9 dependents, 1,084. Police have 9 dependents. Wow, that's a little bit higher, right? If I go down here to over here, landscaper. Wow, a landscaper with 9 dependents had to spend real money. So it shows something indicative of our society. It shows us a point of attack. I strategically, as a politician, or probably somebody in government, well, if not a politician, somebody in government, might think that, oh, you know what? I need to probably reduce the amount of expenses on the low-income people. All right. You know what's really interesting about this? These numbers that I have generated here, they were generated randomly by a random number generator, and it happened to be. I think we get some insights here that reflect our society. It's kind of strange because landscapers doesn't normally make $10,000 a month unless you own your own company. Freelance landscapers tend to, which we have in Trinidad. Freelance landscapers would tend to make a little bit less than, well, actually a lot less than that. All right, fellas. Let me do another extreme one. I'm gonna drag back number of dependents down here, and I'm gonna put sum of living expenses in columns. And this is not gonna be particularly useful for me because I do expect to have situations where I have grouping across, going from top to bottom. Sorry, grouping going from top to down across these different things. Hardly am I gonna expect that how 2 entities, like let me say 2 groups of doctors, going to share $1,503 exactly as the expense, right? So this is an example of an extreme case where I'll get data, but it's not useful to me. And folks, that's all I have to show all you fellas, all right? Now, we sort of cheat here in terms of knowing how data is grouped, but you could be faced with a set of data that you have no intimate knowledge of. You don't know about it. And just by dragging things around, it's going to allow you to see different sorts of groupings, right? And when you start to see the different sorts of groupings, you're going to drag other variables to either your values, your columns, or whatever it is, to try and make sense of this data. So when you start to make sense of that data, then you can come back to your table and sort it. Or then you can generate a list of questions that you in your own organization You're going to ask those questions to people higher up. You're going to ask those questions to people below you to improve the efficiency or quality of your organization. So pivot tables in this sense, I shouldn't say in this sense, in all senses, the main intent of a pivot table is to make sense of a group of data that you have no intimate knowledge of. All right, folks, that was about 20 minutes for the video there. We have about 40 seconds again for class. Do you have any questions at this point in time?
No, sir.
So all you fellas good, right? All right, well, that's about it. Thanks for your time, and I will see all you fellas during our next class.